Throughout human history, one question has echoed in the hearts of people across every culture, every belief system, and every corner of our world. Will I see my loved ones again after death? This deeply human longing transcends religious boundaries, philosophical differences, and cultural divides. It speaks to something fundamental in our nature, the bonds we form with those we love, and our desire for those connections to be eternal. The ancient Egyptians built elaborate tombs filled with possessions for the afterlife, believing family members would reunite in the field of reeds. Native American traditions speak of ancestors watching over us from the spirit world. In Christianity, Jesus offers the promise of reunion in heaven. These diverse traditions share a common thread, the hope that death is not the end of our most precious relationships. In the depths of grief, when we stand beside the grave of someone beloved, this question becomes more than philosophical curiosity. It becomes a lifeline to which we cling. The thought that somewhere, somehow, we might embrace them again gives meaning to an otherwise unbearable loss. The modern world, with its scientific mindset and technological wonders, has changed how many approach this age-old question. Some dismiss the possibility of afterlife reunions as wishful thinking, a psychological coping mechanism for dealing with death's finality. Yet even in our secular age, this hope persists. Studies consistently show that regardless of religious affiliation, most people maintain some belief in seeing deceased loved ones again. What makes this question so universal? Perhaps it's because relationships form the core of human experience. We are social creatures, defined by our connections to others. The thought that these bonds, which shape our very identity, could simply dissolve into nothingness feels contrary to their profound significance. The love between parent and child, between spouses who've shared decades together, between siblings who've known each other since birth. Surely something so powerful must transcend physical death. Those who have experienced near-death experiences often report encountering deceased relatives during their journey. These accounts come from people of diverse backgrounds: doctors, children, atheists, religious leaders, many with no prior belief in an afterlife. Their stories carry striking similarities, being greeted by loved ones who have passed, feeling an overwhelming sense of love and belonging, and receiving reassurance that a reunion awaits when their time truly comes. Edgar once spoke of the afterlife as merely a continuation of life in another dimension. He described a place where souls recognize each other not by physical appearance, but by an energetic signature, the essence of who we truly are beneath our earthly identities. This recognition, he suggested, is instantaneous and complete, unhindered by the limitations of physical perception. The question of family reunion after death invites us to consider what family truly means. Is it merely biological connection, or something deeper? Many spiritual traditions suggest that soul families transcend bloodlines, that we travel through multiple lifetimes with the same souls in different relationships, learning and growing together across the vast expanse of existence. As we explore this profound question together, we'll examine various perspectives, from ancient wisdom traditions to modern research on consciousness. We'll consider both the comfort these beliefs provide and the doubts that naturally arise when contemplating what lies beyond our physical experience. What awaits us when we cross the threshold between worlds? Is there truly a joyful reunion with those we've loved and lost? Or does consciousness simply dissolve back into the cosmic whole? These are questions each of us must wrestle with in the quiet moments of our lives. The question of reuniting with family after death is addressed within virtually every major religious tradition, though with fascinating variations that reflect different cultural understandings of the soul, afterlife, and the nature of human relationships. In Christianity, the belief in family reunions in heaven has deep scriptural roots. The Apostle Paul wrote to the Thessalonians about those who had died. "We who are still alive will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and so we will always be with the Lord." This passage has comforted countless Christians with its promise of reunion. Many Christian denominations teach that families will recognize each other in heaven, though views differ on whether earthly relationships continue in the same form. Some theologians suggest that while recognition occurs, all souls become part of a greater heavenly family, where God's love supersedes but doesn't eliminate the special bonds formed on earth. Islam offers a similar hope through descriptions of Jannah, paradise. The Quran speaks of families reunited in gardens beneath which rivers flow, with several passages specifically mentioning righteous families being brought together. In Surah Al-Ra'd, it states, "Gardens of perpetual residence, they will enter them with whoever were righteous among their fathers, their spouses, and their descendants." This vision provides Muslims with the comforting belief that family bonds endure beyond death. Though Islamic scholars emphasize that all relationships in Jannah exist in a purified state, free from earthly imperfections, the Hindu tradition approaches reunification differently through its cyclical view of existence. While immediate recognition after death isn't emphasized, Hinduism teaches that souls, Atman, who share karmic bonds often reincarnate together in subsequent lives, drawn by attachments and unresolved relationships. These soul groups, sometimes called soul families, continue their journey together across multiple lifetimes. Ultimate liberation, moksha, transcends individual relationships. Yet many Hindu texts and teachers acknowledge intermediate heavenly realms, where souls may temporarily reunite between incarnations. Buddhism, while teaching the impermanence of all things including relationships, still acknowledges the power of karmic connections. In Tibetan Buddhism's Bardo teachings, the period between death and rebirth might allow for recognition of those with whom we share strong karmic links. Pure Land Buddhism offers the promise of rebirth in Sukhavati, Pure Land, where family members who practice devotion to Amitabha Buddha might reunite in a realm conducive to enlightenment. Judaism has varied perspectives on the afterlife, with traditional views focusing more on collective resurrection than individual afterlife experiences. Nevertheless, the concept of Olam Haba, the world to come, includes the reunification of the Jewish people, including families. The Talmud contains discussions suggesting recognition of loved ones after death, though Judaism generally places greater emphasis on living ethical lives in the present than on specifics of afterlife mechanics. Spiritualism, which emerged in the 19th century, centers explicitly around communication with those who have passed. Spiritualists believe not only in reunion after death, but in the possibility of ongoing connection between the living and deceased. Through mediums, they seek evidence that personality and relationships continue uninterrupted by physical death. This movement gained millions of followers, particularly after World War I, as grieving families sought connection with lost loved ones. Indigenous traditions worldwide often emphasize ancestral presence and continuing relationships between the living and dead. Many Native American tribes believe deceased family members remain active participants in tribal life, guiding and protecting their descendants. Aboriginal Australian Dreamtime teachings include ancestor spirits who never truly leave the community. These traditions see less separation between living and dead than Western religions, viewing deceased family as accessible through proper ceremony and respect. Eastern philosophies like Taoism speak of returning to the source after death, a universal energy from which all life emerges. While individual personalities may dissolve, the essence of relationships continues as part of the eternal Tao. This perspective suggests a reunion not of individual personalities, but of our essential natures, free from the separateness that characterized earthly existence. Even Zoroastrianism, one of the world's oldest continuously practiced religions, teaches that souls reunite with loved ones at the Chinvat Bridge, where the righteous cross into paradise. This ancient Persian faith influenced many later religions with its clear vision of family reunification after death. What emerges from this cross-cultural examination is not just the universality of hoping for reunion, but how this hope adapts to each culture's broader cosmology while remaining fundamentally recognizable across traditions. While faith traditions offer frameworks for understanding family reunions after death, many seek more tangible evidence. Is there anything beyond theological doctrine that might suggest such reunions are more than wishful thinking? The answer lies in examining three fascinating areas: near-death experiences, deathbed visions, and consciousness research. Near-death experiences, NDEs, provide some of the most compelling accounts suggesting family reunions may await us. Dr. Raymond Moody, who coined the term near-death experience in 1975, documented hundreds of cases where clinically dead patients later reported remarkably similar experiences, including being greeted by deceased loved ones. What makes these accounts particularly intriguing is their consistency across cultural, religious, and educational backgrounds. Consider the case of Laurelyn Martin, who clinically died during surgery. She described being met by her grandmother, who had passed years earlier. She looked radiant, younger than I remembered her, but I knew her instantly. There was a quality of recognition that transcended physical appearance. I would have known her anywhere. What's notable is that Martin reported her grandmother showed her events from her life that she couldn't possibly have known about, later verified by other family members. Similar accounts come from people of all backgrounds, atheists, children too young to have absorbed cultural expectations about the afterlife, and individuals from diverse religious traditions. Dr. Pim van Lommel, a Dutch cardiologist, conducted a landmark study published in The Lancet, where he found that medical factors like oxygen deprivation could not adequately explain the consistent patterns in NDE reports, including reunions with deceased relatives. Perhaps most compelling are cases involving people who meet deceased family members they never knew in life. One documented case involves a child who, during cardiac arrest, reported meeting his sister and grandparents. The child had never been told about his sister who died before he was born, yet he accurately described her to his astonished parents, including a rare physical characteristic. Deathbed visions represent another category of evidence. Medical professionals who work with the dying regularly report patients conversing with deceased relatives in their final hours. What distinguishes these from hallucinations is their clarity, the peace they bring, and their specific nature. Patients often identify relatives they haven't seen in decades with perfect recognition, sometimes even relatives they didn't know had died. Dr. Christopher Kerr, Chief Medical Officer at Hospice Buffalo, has systematically studied thousands of deathbed experiences. His research reveals that approximately 80% of lucid dying patients report visitations from deceased loved ones. These experiences typically transform patients' relationship with death, replacing fear with anticipation of reunion. Remarkably, these visions occur regardless of medication levels, and often in patients with no previous spiritual beliefs. These aren't hallucinations, Dr. Kerr explains. Hallucinations distress patients. These experiences bring profound comfort. Patients consistently report being visited rather than imagining these encounters, and they occur even in highly skeptical individuals. Cross-cultural studies in consciousness research have also yielded intriguing findings. Dr. Ian Stevenson spent over 40 years at the University of Virginia documenting over 3,000 cases suggestive of reincarnation. His rigorous methodology focused on children who spontaneously recalled previous lives, often including detailed memories of family relationships. Many of these children expressed ongoing emotional bonds with their previous families, suggesting relationships might continue across different lifetimes. Quantum physics, while not directly addressing afterlife questions, has revolutionized our understanding of consciousness and reality. The observer effect, quantum entanglement, and non-locality all suggest consciousness may be more fundamental to reality than previously thought. Theoretical physicist Sir Roger Penrose and anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff have proposed that consciousness arises from quantum processes in brain microtubules, potentially allowing consciousness to exist independent of the physical brain. Dr. Bruce Grayson, Professor Emeritus of Psychiatry at the University of Virginia, summarizes the implications. The evidence suggests consciousness is not produced by the brain, but rather transmitted through it, like a radio receives signals. If consciousness exists independent of the brain, it opens the possibility that relationships, which exist in consciousness, might continue when the physical body dies. Indigenous wisdom traditions have long maintained that the veil between worlds thins at certain times, allowing communication with deceased family members. Modern research into instrumental transcommunication, ITC, using electronic devices to allegedly capture communications from the deceased, remains controversial but has yielded results difficult to dismiss entirely. Some researchers report receiving specific information unknown to them but later verified, including in laboratory settings with controlled conditions. While none of this constitutes definitive proof of family reunions after death, the convergence of evidence from multiple disciplines suggests the possibility deserves serious consideration beyond mere wishful thinking or religious doctrine. As consciousness researcher Dr. Dean Radin notes, the evidence for post-mortem survival is actually better than the evidence for many things we accept as fact in medicine and psychology. As we reach the conclusion of our exploration, we must ask ourselves, how do we integrate these diverse perspectives on family reunions after death? How might we find personal meaning in this universal question, regardless of our individual beliefs? The search for answers about posthumous reunions ultimately reveals as much about our living relationships as it does about what may await us beyond. This question touches the core of what it means to be human, our need for connection, our fear of separation, and our hope that love transcends even death's finality. Consider for a moment that the universe operates on principles of conservation. Physics teaches us that energy cannot be destroyed, only transformed. If physical energy follows this principle, might the energy of consciousness, and by extension, the energy of our relationships, follow similar patterns? Many traditions suggest that the connections we forge in life create energetic bonds that persist beyond physical death. These bonds, built through shared experiences, emotional intimacy, and mutual growth, may form what some spiritual teachers call soul contracts, agreements to journey together across multiple planes of existence. The psychological dimension of this question deserves equal consideration. Carl Jung proposed the concept of the collective unconscious, a shared reservoir of experiences accessible to all humans. Through this lens, our departed loved ones remain accessible within this collective field of consciousness. Their wisdom, love, and unique essence continue to influence us, not merely as memories, but as living presences within a shared psychic reality. Perhaps the most profound insight comes from examining the nature of time itself. Modern physics suggests that our linear perception of time may be illusory, that past, present, and future may exist simultaneously in what physicist Brian Greene calls the block universe. If time is indeed more fluid than our everyday experience suggests, then separation through death may be temporary only from our limited perspective. From a higher dimensional viewpoint, all moments, including joyful reunions, may exist eternally, accessible beyond the constraints of linear time. Many who have studied consciousness at death's threshold report a dissolution of temporal boundaries. This expansion beyond linear time might explain why those who have near-death experiences often describe reunions with loved ones who are still alive at the moment of the experience, yet appear in their afterlife state, suggesting all timelines may converge in this transitional consciousness. The concept of resonance offers another framework for understanding posthumous reunions. Just as tuning forks vibrating at identical frequencies resonate with each other across distance, consciousness tuned to the same frequency through love, shared purpose, or deep connection may naturally find each other in post-physical states. This principle appears in quantum entanglement, where particles once connected remain in communication regardless of physical separation. For those seeking practical application of these insights, several approaches emerge. Many find comfort in establishing continuing bonds with deceased loved ones, not as a denial of death, but as a healthy recognition that relationships transform rather than end. This might involve internal dialogues, creating rituals of remembrance, or being attentive to synchronicities that suggest ongoing connection. Dreams often serve as a meeting ground between worlds. Visitation dreams, distinguished from ordinary dreams by their clarity, emotional impact, and sense of genuine contact, frequently occur across cultures. These experiences typically leave the dreamer with a profound sense that actual communication has occurred across the threshold between worlds. Rather than dismissing such experiences, we might view them as glimpses of the continuing relationship, moments when the veil between realms momentarily thins. Those who have studied thousands of accounts of posthumous communication note common patterns. Deceased loved ones often communicate that they remain connected to us, that love continues uninterrupted, and that reunion awaits when our physical journey concludes. The consistency of these messages across diverse cultural and religious backgrounds suggests they may contain essential truths. The question remains, how do we live in light of this possibility? Perhaps the most meaningful approach is to recognize that the same qualities that create profound connections in life, presence, compassion, forgiveness, and unconditional love, may be precisely what facilitates recognition and reunion beyond death. By cultivating these qualities now, we simultaneously enhance our current relationships and prepare ourselves for potential reunions in realms beyond physical existence. As our exploration concludes, remember that the question, will we meet our family after death, ultimately invites us into deeper relationship with mystery itself. In embracing this mystery with both critical thinking and open-hearted wonder, we participate in humanity's timeless dialogue with the unknown. Whether through religious faith, scientific inquiry, philosophical reflection, or personal experience, this question connects us to countless others who have gazed into the same mystery across human history. Perhaps the most beautiful response comes not from certainty, but from hope grounded in love's persistent nature. As countless testimonies suggest, love appears to be the one force that transcends the boundary between life and death with ease. If love indeed proves stronger than death, then perhaps reunion is not merely possible, but inevitable, the natural fulfillment of connections that were always meant to be eternal. If this exploration of eternal connections touched your heart, take a moment now to subscribe to our channel. Your journey with us has only just begun. Share your own thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Have you ever felt the presence of a loved one who has passed? Every story matters, and your perspective might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Hit that subscribe button and join our community as we continue exploring life's deepest mysteries together.